I know people are joining us as we see here. I think we're at the almost literally the witching hour for Halloween. Some of us came in spirit.
Terry, I was thinking you got kind of a pirate,
Is
googly
that what it looks like?
goblin
You should
look
have put
happening.
a patch on the other eye.
Yeah.
Won't stay. There it is. There it is. Um, so we're doing artificial intelligence today, and we're really happy to be joined by Representative Todd Ohnstad from Kenosha. And Kurt's going to, I think,
Yeah, I'll do that
in the
now.
spirit of this, is he's going to put up on the screen here an introduction for Todd from artificial intelligence using Copilot, Bing's Copilot. And that'll tell you a little bit more. Todd, I don't know what your history, it's going to search the internet and come up with who you are for an introduction.
This is scary at this point.
This is going to be a little bit funky, but we'll see what I can do here.
Okay.
All right, so I'll just
down in the right corner.
Yeah.
You can see where he is typing.
Yeah.
Todd Ohnstad. All right, and let's see what it does.
See what it points. See what it gives us.
And now we're going on 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9.
It's actually, I think it's already writing it. It's just down below. There you go.
All right, here it is. Here's your introduction. Todd, tell us if it's correct.
Well, let's see. So far,
serving the state assembly, 65th district, elected in 2012, re-elected 5 times. Ranking member on jobs, the economy, committee, consumer protection, veterans, military affairs, machinist.
That's the first mistake. I'm not on veterans and military affairs.
All right. UAW, 25 years.
I was in the UAW. I was a UAW representative. I was not a machinist. I was an assembler.
Isn't that interesting?
Interesting.
Okay. How about personal? Kenosha, Trumper.
I did not graduate from Trumper Higher. I graduated from Altoona Public School next to Eau Claire. And I've never been married to anybody by the name of Mary. And I have no children and no grandchildren.
Is that true?
That's true.
Wow.
Did it pick up somebody else? But I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that.
But this is a lot. So we're going to try to do some live answer and use some of the AI tools that are built into the Microsoft stack and today. So, and it does a different answer. If I ask it this question in 5 minutes, it's going to give me a different answer.
Interesting.
So, well, you good for stop sharing? You're good.
Yeah. Let's just go with Todd. And so welcome, Todd, and thanks for joining us. Before we ask you about your task force on AI that you're working with the state, you have a reaction to the labor union resolutions?
I'm not sure which labor union resolution.
Well, UAW, all of it. I mean, now all 3 have settled.
Of the strike. Yeah, I think that the UAW really. Well, let me just talk about it a little bit if you want to bring it up. But UAW has really a completely new leadership, which was certainly more. I'm not sure exactly what the right word is, but they certainly used a different strategy in terms of the striking all 3 different companies at one time and kind of selective strikes in terms of individual plants. They were much more aggressive in bargaining, and they certainly have won back some of the things that were lost during the 2008 period, during the downturn, when I think it can be argued that the UAW was largely responsible, or at least a big help in terms of saving all 3 auto companies. They lost a lot of different benefits that they had at that time, and the wages have been stagnant ever since. And so I think a lot of that has been won back. And so I look forward to a big ratification vote. I'm retired, but I would certainly be voting in favor if I was still active. So I think that they did a really good job, and I commend the new leadership, which was actually this leadership of the UAW is the first that has really been elected by direct election by individual members versus kind of a delegate system that was in place before. And was actually riddled with corruption up until this new leadership. So I look forward to continued ambitious organizing drive by this new team, and I think that this great contract will only serve to win some of those elections.
Yeah, it's interesting. Fain said next time they do it in 2028, they're going to be hoping to negotiate with the Big Six, not just the Big Three.
Yeah, that was a great quote. I love that one as well.
Well,
I hope that that's true.
Well, tell us what's going on with it. What's the name of the task force? Who's on it? What do you expect to be doing? What are they asked to be done?
Sure, just a little bit back, since the AI introduction was a little bit off. Let me give just a little bit of introduction there by way. I am from the 65th Assembly District. I'm kind of in the middle of my hard to believe, but I've been doing this for over 11 years now. And before that, I was on the Kenosha City Council for 6 years, and before that, I was an assembler, not a machinist, at the Kenosha plant, representing workers in that plant for about 26 of my 30 years for UAW Local 72. Well, the Speaker's Task Force is what I am currently on, and that was announced right about the same time as the Governor's Task Force. The Minority Leader, Greta Neubauer, asked me to serve on the task force, certainly not because of any of my great technological knowledge, but I think more because of my proximity to Microsoft. My district is in the neighboring district to Microsoft, and as you probably know, Microsoft has announced and is actually broken ground on a new data center, and I think that this promises, and Microsoft, of course, is looking to be a leader in AI, and has been up until this time, and certainly seems like it's positioned to be one of those international leaders. And so there's not only the Speaker's Task Force, which I'm proud to serve on, but also and the Governor's Task Force, but also, of course, there was a executive order by President Biden that was announced yesterday, which I think it's just notable that all these things and this discussion that we're having today kind of all come together at the same time, and I think it just illustrates the importance that AI offers. So in full disclosure, I am certainly far from the most technological person that I know or that is in the assembly. My smartphone is certainly a lot smarter than I am, but I look forward to learning a lot, and I hope to, when I'm done with my little presentation today, I hope to be able to stay on for as much of possible as I can of this discussion here, and I look forward to it. Now, tomorrow we will have the second task force meeting, and this will be in Green Bay. The first task force meeting was held a couple of weeks ago in Madison, and we heard from Google. A director of engineering gave a presentation, kind of gave a little history of AI and kind of what Google was doing as well. And one of the things that I found interesting about his presentation was is when I mentioned something that in preparation for this, I've been reading Elon Musk's new autobiography, and he talks in there about that the possibility where machines could become super intelligent, surpassing humans, and decide to dispose of all of us. And this is kind of a resounding theme, I think, and it's one that he did not dispute, that that this is not just science fiction, but it's a genuine concern. And so that was an interesting kind of introduction to AI. And then we also heard from the National Conference of State Legislators, and they discussed what a lot of different states are already doing in terms of legislation to kind of keep AI under check in terms of some of the ways that it can be influencing the elections, for example, influencing perhaps state policy. So those are the two notable speakers at that first event. And tomorrow in Green Bay, we will be hearing from SAS Analytics, and they are they've been kind of leaders in terms of AI, and I suspect that we will be hearing a pretty positive spin from them. And we'll also be hearing from the Milwaukee School of Engineering. And I think that it's critical that one thing about AI is we know that we can't put the genie back in the bottle. And so, we have to make sure that we are able to train people in AI. And I think that technical schools, I know that the school here in Kenosha and also Racine and Walworth counties, Gateway Technical School, has been teaching AI for some time and is in pretty much frequent contact with Microsoft in terms of developing the skill levels that people will need to run the data center. And also we'll be talking with, on the same note, the Waukesha County Technical School. Terry is going to be talking a little bit later about some of the perils and also the possibilities that AI offers. And I mentioned the thing about that seems like science fiction to many of us in terms of the takeover by the computers. But also, I'd like to quote from Elon Musk in the new biography, where he says our biggest existential threat is artificial intelligence. And Jamie Dimon, not somebody who I normally quote, but he's of course the CEO of JP Morgan. He predicts that up to 300 million jobs will be lost or significantly altered during throughout the world as a result of AI. So, I know that that AI is here. I think that we have to figure out how we can best manage it, how we can best gain from it as a society. And certainly I think that it offers unbelievable resources in terms of advancing healthcare, technology, science, education, just to name a few. I think that it really ultimately will significantly alter society. And I just think that we need to prepare for that. And I'm not sure exactly what legislation, if any, will come as a result of this particular work group that the speaker has assembled. But I look forward to there's only this one more session, I believe, on November 15th in Menominee, and then one more in December in Madison. The format is essentially the same as any public hearing, where we have specific guests that speak first, and then anybody who is interested in speaking is more than welcome to opine. After that, I believe that the Madison date is December 6th. So if anybody wants to come and hear that testimony, or if you want to watch it live on Wisconsin Eye, that's certainly a possibility as well. Or you're certainly more than welcome to come and put in your 2 cents. But I just want to conclude by thanking Terry and all of the guests here today. I'll certainly take any questions, as long as they're not technical. We'll leave those for Kurt or somebody more appropriate to answer those. But I'd be pleased to answer what I could. And like I said, I'm going to try to stay on as long as I can. I do have some other meetings that I have to attend to within the next hour. So great to be here today. Thanks for the invitation, Terry.
Well, thank you for taking the time. It's really it's great to hear that actually some partisan, some nonpartisan, getting people together on the speakers committee is a good way to start with this. It's an issue that obviously goes across the aisle, and it's not one or the other. So it's great to have that kind of have you there representing that. Well, Kurt, do you want to? And everybody knows they can pop up with questions anytime. But Kurt, you want to sort of kick off what you've got, and we'll back into it from there and go from here.
I certainly can. I'll see. This is going to be an experiment, so we're going to try to I'm going to try to flip back and forth a little bit here. But just I want to give a little history of AI as well. So kind of, and it does. It's got a lot of possibilities, and it's going to be a massive change in our. No matter what, it's going to be a massive change. And I like what you said. The genie's out of the bottle. We can't stop it. We can't say no. We're not going to develop this because somebody else is going to somewhere around the world. But the term AI actually goes back to this guy coined it in 1956.
You're going to share your screen?
Oh, sorry. I didn't do that, did I? Thank you. So, did that work?
Yeah, we got your notes on the side. We don't have to full.
That's not gonna. What's that?
We have all the slides down the side as well.
Yeah, I actually.
If that's what you want it, that's
do
fine.
that today. Yeah, I wouldn't normally do that, but I kind of want to today.
It's fine.
So this guy, this dude here. I apologize. I'm gonna move that out of the way. There we go. He actually coined the term in 1956. But in order for AI to really take hold, there's two pieces that had to happen. One is a huge amount of data, in particular electronic data, think the internet, right? And also so we've kind of digitized most of the information we've got in the world at this point. And then the second part of it is compute power. So one of the first mainframe computers that IBM had in 1961, if you took today's supercomputer and put it up against it, what today's supercomputer can do in 1 second would have taken it 4,753 years to do. And put it a little closer in more recent history, if you think about our current iPhone that most people have in their pocket, or Android, I don't really care which one, but that was released in 2007. And the iPhone that we currently have today is about 1,000 times faster. So those two things had to happen for AI to kind of take hold. And there's basically three classifications of AI, and we've been using AI now. It really just hit the vernacular in the last couple of years, or last year actually. But it really has been around for quite a while, and this is an evolution, not a revolution. But so narrow AI is the first part, right? So these three things, right? Narrow AI, and then general intelligence, and then super intelligence, as he talked about, what Musk is talking about, which appeared to be science fiction, really is not. It's a ways out, but we don't know how far out. So this stuff everybody's been using for a while, right? Spam filtering, Google Translator, Maps, which has got and then Siri, right? And Hey Google, right? The Google voice assistant, and then also Amazon Alexa, and then the self-driving cars that Musk's got, and then assistance in even assistance in medical diagnoses. So it's also referred to, by the way, as weak AI. And I don't really know why it's called that, but that's so the whole concept of it is you train a device to do something, and it doesn't learn past that. So you remember when Watson beat the chess master. Well, you couldn't then take that same development and make it win at the game Go. It had to be completely retrained from scratch. So artificial general intelligence, this most people will recognize some of these guys anyway. HAL is probably the original one, which by the way is the letters that follow IBM. HAL actually in the alphabet.
It was 2001 Space Odyssey.
2001. Yep. So it's the predecessor, the letters preceding it in the alphabet. But it's a piece of trivia. But yeah. So this is where they start, where things start learning as they go, right? So it's referred to as generalized learning. So it can take data in and reason it and come up with a new solution to the problem. And that's kind of, we're just at the beginning of that right now. Think ChatGPT, think IBM Watson, think Google Bard. Amazon's also launching one. So Facebook is also launching one, or Meta. And that's kind of the next iteration. ChatGPT 3 was released last fall. It was actually a successor. Microsoft had their own called Taya, which is out only for about a couple of weeks. And after a couple of days, somebody had fed it enough data and trained it to be a bigot, and they had to take it down. So it's using lots of racial slurs. So they had to learn how to put guardrails on it. And there's a lot of argument that the reason, so Microsoft's got a huge investment in OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT. And kind of the reason that it got released that way, because a startup company could release something like this without it hitting their corporate reputation as much. So if it didn't work, not really a problem. So we talked about kind of the doomsday scenario, but that's where superintelligence, where it surpasses humans, right? And that sounded like science fiction. We kind of knew at some point we get there. We're kind of maybe heading that direction now. And the question about when we get there, who knows? I don't believe in the doomsday scenario as much as these are, or what Musk is talking about. And there's a lot of people that don't. Is there a possibility? Of course. Yeah. We're going to have to learn how to live with this and how to work around it and how to control it. So the things that have to happen for things to develop to these two levels, right? Artificial general intelligence and then super intelligence, machine learning was originally the first part, right? And that had to happen, where basically it would learn and adapt, right? And think spam filtering and some of the and do it without human intervention. And think spam filtering, think medical records diagnosis, where it'll help you. And then the next is deep learning, right? And deep learning, what does that mean? Really, is where we learn to start mimicking the brain, right? And how and some of the algorithms mimic how our brain works. So just those are the acronyms, right? So the deep learning is a sub of machine learning, which is a sub of artificial intelligence. So and what comes out of that is natural language processing, which is where we're at with ChatGPT, right? You can actually speak to it now. It'll actually respond in verbal language. So you can kind of see the progression fairly quickly here. And we're moving faster at this point than we had. And again, it does have a huge implication of being fairly disruptive to our workforce and our way of living. So yeah, large language model. I thought I would try to just grab that and throw that if I can, and I'm going to see how this works. Put that in and ask. And Terry, I'm going to have you, if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
I'm going to bring it over so it's a little bigger. So what is a large language model? That's kind of the and you can sort of think it gets a little verbose, but you can kind of summarize it, right? So it'll take language in, it'll process it, it will come back with something new, right? So everybody hears GPT. What does that stand for? It's probably useful to actually give you the acronym, but it really rolls off the tongue, right? It's a generative pre-trained transformer. What it means is it's pre-trained, it's got a bunch of data, it takes that data and then transforms it into something that's coherent to humans.
So Kurt, on that for a minute,
Yeah.
some folks say that, you know, it's not intelligence at all. All it has is it can just scour the internet, and it finds stuff from bots, and it finds stuff from anything I've posted, or anything that anyone has ever put out there. So in a sense, it just seems to be like plagiarizing. It's not really smart, but it just really is great at putting things together.
And that is probably actually accurate, although think about humans, right? As we learn, think about a kid that's in grade school. Do they have a lot of original thought, or they grab the stuff that's in the in the encyclopedia or on the internet, right? And put it together in some coherent. I mean, my brother actually did that in high school. He actually wrote word for word what was in the encyclopedia, and the teacher started reading it with him in his class. So that obviously didn't work so well, but that's kind of what we do, right? We learn from something else and mostly regurgitate that without a lot of original thought.
So what do you think? So now we know that the Times and the Post and some others have basically put Microsoft and others on warning that you can't use their information. Associated Press, has a very different approach to it. And of course, AP is major national, and they said they can take everything they want from AP. But of course, AP is compiling stuff from the Times and other places. Yeah. So in a sense, it's still going to get what the Times and the Post and the others do, but at least the AP says, take all you want.
Yeah. And this is going to be a fight for a while, right? Because there's an argument that there's a lot of data that this has been able to grab that people wouldn't necessarily agree to, right? A lot of people's data.
Well, and also if you figure how much on the internet is junk, is wrong. I mean, with Todd's bio, 3 things. I mean, marriage and kids and grandkids is pretty significant. If I'm relying on that as a reporter or as just a citizen, I want to look up something and look about somebody. I mean, how much of that is wrong on the internet already?
Yeah. No, good question. What percentage is? And now it's generating its own, right?
Right. Even worse.
Yeah.
And then what is it called? Hallucinate when it starts?
Hallucination is the term. So if it hallucinates, it comes up with something that didn't actually happen. One of the famous ones when ChatGPT first launched is somebody asked about Hillary Clinton, and it responded that she was the 45th president of the United States.
Well,
so
okay.
So there is actually several predictions so this is a super intelligence. This is the next step. When do we think this technology will surpass humans? So I knew some of the answers, and each time you ask it will give you a different answer, but I'm going to see if I can and Terry, I'm going to have you probably summarize this if you
can. I'll do that. So you write, when is it predicted AI will surpass human intelligence? According to a paper from the elite artificial intelligence, 50% chance within 45 years, 10% chance within 9 years. But what does it mean to outsmart
humans?
Machines can already perform surgery, fly airplanes, but they cannot learn object categories. Okay.
Yeah. So again, the answers are fairly verbose, but so what I'm using, by the way, is just this piece that's baked into the Microsoft stack, this little icon up here, which is called Copilot. That's their rebrand, and this is using ChatGPT 4 at the back end of it.
Someone asked, why is it different each time, Kurt?
So it actually generates a word at a time. So when it's generating a sentence, it actually puts and I've got a little video on it which explained it to me. is it says, okay, well, here's the ranking of the words that actually could come next in this sentence. And then it will say, yep, we're going to use this one. It's kind of randomized which word each time. And that kind of generates a random response. They may be related, but I've even gotten different answers from different sources on the internet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
So there's a 10% chance that this is going to surpass us in under 10 years.
But you're not equating little robots doing work like that as super intelligence.
No.
What's the crossover between robotics and AI? Robotics, we've had a lot.
Yeah. I read the other day that Amazon's got 750,000 robots in their warehouses. So yeah, this isn't science fiction.
But that's not artificial intelligence.
No, because currently they have some artificial intelligence baked in, but they don't even have the general intelligence baked in. So super intelligence is referred to as a singularity when a technology singularity. That's the word that has been out there for a long time. When machines surpass us, and we kind of know it's going to happen intrinsically when it's going to happen. Hell, we were supposed to have a self-driving cars, by now, and that was predicted, 15 years ago, and it was supposed to happen in 3 years, and it still hasn't completely happened. Is it going to? This is a piece of it, right? This is a chunk of it. What do we have to have? The technologies that we had to have. We had to have 5G to be able to pull data fast enough on the go, and we needed something that could learn from its environment. One of the examples that I saw, though, is somebody crossing the street, not in a crosswalk. Well, that happens all the time, and maybe you get some video of that, but for a car to learn that, or for the technology to learn that, it has to see it not only once or twice, it needs to see it under multiple conditions. You want to see it under winter conditions, summer conditions, night, and AI can actually generate some of that video now. So it actually will continue to go faster as we get closer.
So they could say, now they could simulate. AI knows that it could simulate fog or a snowstorm.
Yep.
In Michigan for electric, for EV, for self-driving. Without people trying to create it,
or without even having to capture the actual video in the first place. Yeah. And it's amazingly real what you see that comes out of it. I've got a couple of videos on it, which is pretty interesting.
Okay.
What kind of impact is this going to have? It's going to have a huge impact on GDP, on how we work, where we work, who benefits, who are the winners and losers. There's an argument that it's going to produce more jobs than it changes or gets rid of. But again, it's all about retraining, and whether or not it exacerbates the haves and the have-nots. So I had a couple more questions, right? I knew some of the answers to this. But I had to ask, I asked it, right? What's the GDP of the world? What's the GDP of the US? So put those in perspective. The GDP of the world is 100 trillion. The GDP of the US is about 25 trillion, a little more than 25 trillion. It's about a quarter. But what impact will AI have on, and again, these are all guesses. Nobody knows for sure. But I thought we'd ask that real time, and I got different answers to this. But I'm going to give you and I'll have you just kind of.
Sure. So what is the impact of the gross domestic product
of AI supposed to have on the world?
McKinsey says potential adds 16% to the global economy, $13 trillion. Another said 15 trillion by 2030. These are estimates, predictions, may depend on different factors.
Yeah. So this didn't hit the number of people it's going to affect, which you mentioned, about 300,000. That's, or 300 million. That's about That's about what I've heard, which is about 16-17% of the economy.
Whoa.
Now, one of the things about adding, so this is the positive part, right? Is the amount of that it's going to add to the world GDP. So by definition, so I'm a technologist by trade, but I'm trained as an economist, or at least that's what I did in a former life. By definition, our standard of living, our worldwide standard of living, can't increase unless we produce more with less. So the GDP increase worldwide, where's it going to happen? Don't know. It's obviously going to be lumpy. But in order for standard of living, and there was some argument, right? So the last big changes were, some of the advent of IT, and then the advent of the internet have driven our productivity in the US and other parts of the world significantly, which is why our standard of living has continued to increase, but it's flattened over the last couple of years. And there's some argument that we weren't maybe going to gain anymore without another major inflection point in the development of technology. And this is probably what we're looking at. What's that?
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah, I'm actually not hearing that argument that we're going to slow down in the development of technology anymore, our potential. So Gates actually hit. So this is I should have really capitalized his name, but I didn't, because I often don't do that when I use ChatGPT or when I use this tech. So Gates actually asked, he was following, Bill Gates was actually following the OpenAI's folks for quite a while, and he asked them a question. He said, when you can do this, then come back and see me. You'll have something. And I remembered hearing it, so I asked it what the answer to that question was. And Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
CNBC article: Gates challenged OpenAI CEO, bring it back when it can exhibit advanced human level competency, passing the AP biology exam. He was initially unimpressed and thought it was kind of an idiot savant, but after watching what happened in August of 2022, he was in a state of shock about it, that it could actually pass that. And of course, we know now it's passed the LSAT, the MCAT. It can pass everything that's out there.
So the answer that I got the other day was different than this, similar but different. So initially he thought he challenged him to pass this biology exam, AP biology exam, and he thought it was going to take them a few years to get to that point, and they called him back in 2 months. So this is, again, I might get different answers here, but basically we can only look backwards, or we can look backwards, right? That's our frame of reference, looking backwards and saying, what else was similar to this? And I just said, I will see what answer I get this time. So what's this compared to?
Steam engine, electricity, and the internet. They transformed the way we live, work, communicate. It revolutionized everything from healthcare and transportation, education, and entertainment. It's used for speech recognition, image recognition, natural language processing. There's your $13 trillion, or 1.2% to the GDP.
Yeah, by 2030. So that's in the next 7 years, is what they think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the full total. So the answers that I got the other day, which it said they compared it potentially to the Industrial Revolution, to the Renaissance. Some even have compared it to the invention of the written word. I don't know. Nobody really does. That 13 trillion. Somebody pulled that. Somebody pulled that out of somewhere. That's a guess, but that's the best we've got, right? So again, I asked, what is it going to have? What kind of impact is going to have on our workforce? And I don't know. Again, I don't know what answer it's going to give me. I think that 300 million is the one that's going to come up, but I can't say for sure.
World Economic Forum says it replaced 85 million jobs globally by 2025 by creating 97 new roles. 97 million.
Yeah, and you see the same. So these are actually links, so you can actually go to those reports from there.
Mm-hmm.
So it always gives you the part that's baked into the Microsoft stack always gives you their sort of where they pull the data from, and you can go to them, and then you can also go to those articles. And by the way, anybody can use this. This is not a beta. This is not, I mean, it is a beta, but it's an open beta that people can play with. So I can ask it this question just to see what happens. How many jobs will be eliminated? And again, these are all wild guesses that aren't easily you can't really dispute because you don't really know. Yeah, so this one's giving the same answer.
Yeah. And there's a study out today, Kurt, about the engineers, AI engineers, and see if I can find it here. They're expecting, first of all, there's a salary premium. The AI engineer is making $188,000 a year. Regular software engineer, $155,000. So while tech is shedding a lot of jobs, there's still a lot of AI is surging.
Right. That doesn't surprise me. It reminds me a lot. So I was working with Terry and Dennis at the La Follette School when the kind of the internet's been around a long time, but where it really took hold and where it was starting to hit when the first release of the first broad-based Mosaic, the first broad-based web browser came out, and tech was going wild then, right? And that was just before, that was late 90s, right? I don't remember, when did I leave La Follette? Do you remember, Terry?
No.
As 90. Oh, left 98. In 98. I left in 98.
And you started the company, Kurt. You forgot.
Yes, that's right. It coincides with, about 6 months later, I started.
It's worth mentioning that the executive order on AI from Biden yesterday includes a directive to look at the labor market impacts, including job losses, and also to have every federal agency create a chief AI officer. So that's going to be a big piece of this. Will be what is, as Todd had said, what's the impact? We don't know yet, but something that has to be looked at and understood.
I mean, I'm actually really happy that my concern earlier on was that government wasn't going to respond. Our government wasn't going to respond fast enough, and I think people are paying enough attention to it. So I think
Well, along the lines, you just talk about Mosaic. That's Mark Andreessen, and the guy who did that started Mosaic. So a visionary guy. He testified in Congress with Schumer's hearing that he had on it. He testified that any pause in pursuing AI is a form of murder. He said, because what you're doing is we would be missing breakthroughs on everything from vaccines to electricity to transportation to pesticides to everything. So he says any pause in that would be a form of murder. He looks down the road and says it's the possibilities. Every child can have an AI tutor. The revolution for education, all of those kind of things. And Andreessen, the way he also described it, he said, is that we are literally making sand think, referring to silicon in the chips. We're literally making sand think, which is, crazy way to talk about this stuff. But
the guy that started Mosaic or Netscape, he probably did Netscape, right?
No, he did Mosaic.
Okay. So
Andreessen,
he's a Wisconsinite, I think. The guy that started Mosaic in Champaign-Urbana came from Wisconsin, and he did it as a grad project. And it was an evolution, not a revolution. He put out Mosaic as they initially It was developed by CERN, and it was developed by scientists, the first web browser to put pictures and or graphics, because they wanted to show pictures of stuff and text together. Yeah. So what's that?
Okay, now let's hold off for a minute. You
Yeah.
go back to that slide. If you go to my first slide,
Yep.
and let's go to the chat here for a minute. You've got
Yep.
questions. Do you want to just wander through them there, Kurt?
What's that?
Okay. Ray says there's a difference between learning to read and transition to reading to learn, which is, I mean, yeah. All right, there's a question. It's going to take a lot of deaths. That's on the smart cars. I mean, on the self-driving.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's ethical stuff too, right? If you have a choice between killing the people in the car or killing the pedestrian that's in the cross, that's jaywalking. Who do you know, or what's the chances of do you crash the car to get off to avoid that person? How reckless does the AI drive?
And we know Cruise has been pulled out of California, and that's a major setback for was that Ford or GM? GM, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a major pullback. So question there, Kurt, if people can't work, how do they get income? If people do not have income, how do companies sell their products?
Good question. I have no answer to this, but I do believe we're going to get to a point where universal basic income is going to have to be something that we at least discuss. How that works, I have no idea.
Well, and part of that too, again, with what the Todd talking about UAW, one of their requests was for a 4-day week because there's more technology is going to be replacing them. And then so are we really going to have a time that you really do have more time to yourself? And, you know, then that of course gets into everything from mental health issues because people don't know what to do with their time or, yeah, a lot of unknowns with it.
Well, there was predictions that we were going to be down to a 20-hour work week by this time. You know, when we moved from much more to a 40-hour work week, right? That was going to continue to reduce, which it didn't. But
the last
is it
part
going
of
to happen
that,
now? I don't know.
he says that these tests, like the AP Biology and the MCAT, assess the amount of knowledge, not how to use the knowledge to do new things. But it sounds like what you're saying. They will learn. They don't just know how to do that, but they will continue to train.
Yeah. Yes, it will continue to use the info just like humans do. Continue to use the information it's fed.
Do we really want to leave these questions answers to AI? Don't they require and deserve human reasoning and response? Well, some of the factual ones are things that are coming from Forbes and OEDC. Some of those things are and also for the sake of this exercise of talking about AI, Kurt and I and Dennis said, let's use AI as much as we can because we weren't sure how much of it you guys had seen. So we really wanted just to really pepper you with this, let you see what's there. But the ethical question required human and reasoning response. That's like the ethical question. You're saying, Kurt, does the car, you know, crash with people inside or did it hit the other? Fact and information retrieval are different from thinking. Yet to be determined, Todd says. I wonder how much AI will be used to fight wars.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming with the drones and everything else that's happening now, and wait,
yeah, the actuality, it's already being used, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, there was an article yesterday, I think, in the Wall Street Journal about that. There were 4 different sorties that were run in Israel, and it was by AI. One thing to think about here, and we'll go to mine, is when you talk about all this, you have to go back. If you go back to mythology, to the centaur, you know, half man, half horse. So when you read a lot of this, and I have been doing to prepare for this, as has Kurt, you come across this idea that it's half man and half machine. and we will be like that centaur, the man theoretically at the top, telling it, directing it, helping it. Now, at some point, that centaur metaphor probably breaks down, but for right now, in terms of who we are and how we harness this, or who works for whom, gives you that at least a metaphor way to think about it. This kind of centaur. You want to pop over to mine and let me walk you through a few things, and we can continue on with this. So I call this the perils and possibilities of artificial intelligence in politics and policy. And Kurt, you went to the first one here. So part of this, and I'm going to go through this sort of quickly with it. It was released in August, so it's only a little over a year ago. And at the time, all we heard about it was, oh my gosh, kids are going to use it to cheat on their essays, and how are teachers going to handle it? And that was part of it. But now we realize, of course, there are threats to democracy, much beyond all that. And we know we have all kinds of deep fakes. We have all kinds of images and things that could be done with it. And what I want to look at is beyond that. It's kind of things that we know enough about with the deep fakes, having people literally take words and have people move their mouths so Obama can say, don't vote for Hillary Clinton. I mean, those kind of things are already out there. And when we know we have all the bots and everything else with it. So these kind of threats are out there, and I think we know about it. But what I want to look at are 6 different milestones that might happen that go way, way beyond this kind of deep images and things that we're talking about. So Kurt, you want to hit the next one? So for example, can an AI candidate be elected to office? Can AI, we certainly know that you can AI assist a candidate to win. So we also know where there are deep fakes and avatars and robots, and it's possible for AI to mimic the presence of a politician. Virtual politicians have received votes in national elections in Russia in 2017. That happened. So let's go to the first one, Kurt. The first milestone to look at that really goes beyond all of this, and this is, Todd, probably for you up there, the acceptance by a legislature or agency of comment generated by and submitted under the name of artificial intelligence. So we've seen legislation drafted by it. Again, the Centaur, directed by human users and introduced by legislators. They've had bills written about it in Massachusetts House of Representatives. They've used ChatGPT to generate committee remarks and floor speeches. Next one. So while that is the main thing about here is, when will it be something that will be accepted when it's been drafted entirely by AI? We know from what the stuff Kurt's been showing us right here, you can get all kinds of assist for future writing. But the main thing here is that what would happen when it's submitted under AI's old name. And to use an example of this, the New York Times has published a letter under the name of a chat from ChatGPT responding to an opinion piece. And legislators are already turning to it for their opening remarks at committee hearings. And I'm sure Todd probably has seen some of that and exposed to it and maybe used it. Second milestone, again, when the adoption of the first novel legislative amendment to be written by AI. And this is a big concern here is through what's called micro legislation. And that means you can take existing laws or bills and then finely tune and tweak AI to make little changes with a well-defined purpose, which and often can be put in surreptitiously and even anonymously. And it's ripe for exploitation. So micro legislation with existing ones is another one that legislators are going to have to look out for in our democracy. Number 3, the third one, AI-generated political messaging. So we know that right now, AI can find a niche market, and its polling, what it asks in questions, will outscores what a campaign consultant is being able to do with poll testing. And everyone turns to AI to help with their jobs, and campaigners are turning to this not only for words, but also images for social content, and pollsters using it to create this. So this next step is a part of what happens in every kind of campaign toolbox is a message testing survey. And now you can just There's no end to how many you can send out, broken down to the zip code. Number 4, AI creates its own political party with its own platform and attracts human candidates who win elections. And that sounds, crazy, but it could do that. There has already happened in Denmark last year. There was a campaign by the artists. They put together the Danish Synthetic Party. An artist collective created an AI chatbot to interact with human members of the art community and talk about political ideology and things they could do with if they were elected. The party never received enough signatures to do that, to earn a spot on the ballot. But it's out there. It could register as a political party, collect signatures to get a place in the ballots, and attract human candidates to run under its banner. So there's the 4th. Number 5, AI is going to be able to make profits by setting and getting political campaign contributions. They're going to be an entity capable of directing contributions to a campaign fund is a political actor, and AI is potentially capable of that. It works right now with high-speed trading and the autonomous finance capabilities of helping companies make decisions and decide where to go and what to do. And they could conceivably generate contributions to a political campaign and take a seed investment and turn it into, a real return. The 6th one and final one, when they finally actually achieve a coordinated policy outcome across several jurisdictions. So this is the biggest impact of all in public policy. Would it be able to change things like program by humans to have a goal like lower taxes, relieve market regulation, help transportation infrastructure, issues in terms of climate. So AI has these abilities, and it can advocate, it can make messaging, it can promote ideas, it can push these out through social media posts and videos, and actually even lobby by writing legislation and things that we noted in number 5. So these are above 6 possibility things, way above and beyond the normal sort of deep fakes, things that we have going on already that we need to be paid attention to. And the last slide, Kurt, you can see, so what I've been reading and looking for this are these types of, some are hard news sources, some are government, different journals. I went through them and was picking out what people were looking at as the possibilities of that for the use of this. And so you can close off that thing, I think, Kurt, and we can just look at each other. So that's sort of where this stands. And I think the key here, and again, maybe Todd, you want to talk about this, the possibilities on this for things like the judicial system. AI can now be used to, there've been some studies for, let's say you want to get somebody on probation. You're going to get them out on parole, and they're done with their sentence. And right now, that's not colorblind or anything else blind. AI can take everything, the information for a parole board deciding something, and then put it through an AI, and you can rank it, and you can get away from whether or not is it looking at race, you're looking at gender, you're looking at age, that kind of thing. So there's a possibility for that. For example, we know too that there's diagnosis going on now with medicine, and some of the early uses is that once again they found out that bad information in AI is making some bad recommendations and diagnosing things, thinking on the fact that perhaps African Americans' brains are smaller, their muscles are different, all that kind of thing that had been hidden back in the web from all different places, but chat AI picks that up. But anyway, so there's things like this for traffic, for other things you talked about, Todd.
Well, actually, I had a 10:30 meeting that I rearranged, and I'm glad that I did, because this has certainly been an interesting discussion and certainly good preparation for my hearing tomorrow. Just as one tangible example of state government using AI just recently, I think it was the Department of Workforce Development that used AI to unscramble kind of mess in the unemployment system after the COVID shutdown. Of course, there were like thousands of people waiting for, largely because of a very antiquated computer system, but they used AI in order to unscramble that mess that was keeping tens of thousands of Wisconsin workers from getting unemployment that they needed. Certainly, I think that your question in terms of being able to use it in the judicial system, of course, I think that personally, I think that the judicial system is benefited by using some common sense and empathy, and I'm not sure if it's if the AI is able to be trained to be empathetic or use common sense just yet. But by the same token, I think that it offers great promise. But at the same time, I think that there has to be controls that need to be looked at. And I think that it was Dennis who said that he was concerned that government would not be looking at this early enough for to make a difference. And I think that is certainly not the case. One of the interesting things that from our first hearing was the number of states that actually have written legislation to protect elections, protect legislation, from some of the concerns that have been addressed today. So I just once again want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and for all that you've shared. I think it's certainly been a great primer for me.
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, I think it's what I found was 31 states, 291 bills in 31 states have already been introduced on AI of some nature. And it's everything from farms to protection for that to one of the things that looking at actually, of course, is this isn't going to be hit the blue collars. It's going to be hit the cognitive class. It's the lawyers, the marketers, the designers. It's not going to be like taking away a welding job. And so that's going to be there's going to be a different hit when you have the white collar class dropping out of it. But thanks for staying with us. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Let me just close because I do have an 11:15 that I have to prepare for as well. But I remember when the first welding robots were introduced at American Motors a long time ago, and what was the correct response in terms of we knew that it was going to take away some welding jobs, but by the same token, we knew that if the company did not remain competitive with all the other companies using automation, that there would be no jobs at all. So and we also realized it was a losing battle to try to keep the thumb in the dike in terms of what was coming at us. So I think that in a lot of ways we have to look at AI in that same manner, that we have to kind of on the one hand we have to embrace the technology, but on the other hand we have to make sure that we once we get to the super intelligence, we have to make sure that the robots decide that they don't need us anymore.
Hey, thanks, Todd. And remind me, was it you were putting in back seats in a Gremlin?
That was my first job. When they put on the second shift of the Gremlin line in 1974, I moved from Eau Claire to Kenosha to put in back seats of Gremlins. And my plan was to go back to Eau Claire after one winter, and I just haven't made it home yet.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Todd. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, he's been good on that. Kurt, so when you think about privacy, we see what China's doing with facial recognition for keeping protests and things now. Do you call that AI, facial recognition, or is that?
Yeah, it's referred to as the weak AI, right? The first iteration of AI, where you train it to recognize a face and pull it up. But yeah, I mean, but it's definitely, I mean, that's why you're hearing the term more, and why it seems to have exploded is we're using that vernacular. The tech has been evolving over the last, well, for a very long time.
So Biden did not ask for a pause for this. He's got a lot of stuff that he wants to have happen with it, but I'm looking for it right now with it.
the bill that was just passed, or not the bill,
his executive order.
Yeah.
Of course, that's just executive order. It's not the other. So the main things he said is privacy, prioritize development of privacy tools using cutting edge AI systems, particularly for cryptography, so we don't get hacked. We can actually use it against, getting hacked. But anyway, privacy, the four big ones: privacy, civil rights and equity, so that landlords and others use algorithms that make sure they're not making discrimination worse when they're trying to figure out benefit programs and other things. Innovation and competition. He wants small developers and entrepreneurs to be able to jump into there, particularly visa criteria, interviews, modernizing for getting high-skilled immigrants and others. So there's both the equity, privacy, and safety were a lot of what he looked at yesterday, but not for a pause in developing it. And I don't think anyone's agreed to a pause, have they?
I don't think so.
And internationally?
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I again, as Todd mentioned, the genie's out of the bottle. We really don't have and it was going to happen. It was inevitable, right? For us to hit the state.
Can you talk a little bit about Nightshade? I mean, what we have is people's songs and people's designs are all getting basically ripped off by AI, images and other things. There was something introduced, I think, this week that can be embedded in pictures. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think I sent you that article, or I think I pulled up that article. They've created and I can't remember if it's OpenAI or one of them have created something you can embed in the pictures and in audio clips that will identify it as being it couldn't be picked up then by it. It'll get ruined by it. AI won't be able to read it.
And that's like a watermark or something in there that'll prevent that. And of course, there'll be somebody who wants to get around that.
Yeah, and there'll be yes. It'll be a constant battle. I mean, we're using it at my former company. We're using AI to look for threats in people's networks.
Really?
We're watching because it will see activity that looks incorrect or an anomaly, and instead of somebody having to watch it, it'll say, hey, you might want to take a look at this.
Well, it's interesting. So I do a lot of book editing and publishing for people, and in terms of images, I had a guy who wrote a book, romance, based in 1910 in Montana, and a young man going out, finding his girl and all that, and it's a fun little romance. And he paid an artist to do the cover for him, and it was a wagon, horse-drawn wagon with a guy in it, and a sunset in the Montana mountains, 1910, and she did a great job with it. And I thought, well, I bet AI can do this for me too. And so I asked AI Dolly to make a image for me for a book. I told it it's when the book's open, how many inches and how tall, and I wanted this. And it's has an Old West theme with a wagon and a young man and driving into the sunset in the Montana mountains. And by golly, it was amazing. The colors, everything. It could. Now, did that steal it from what's out there in the web, that what a Montana mountain looks like at sunset with a horse wagon and a young man driving off? I mean, it had to steal that, didn't it?
I mean, it definitely looked at a bunch of other ones that had similar characteristics.
Uh-huh.
It is original. So I mean, that picture didn't exist. It didn't grab that picture from somebody else.
Okay, but I gave it enough cues
for it to pull pieces together.
It knows what a sunset is. It knows what wagons and.
I mean, that's sort of my argument. That's what humans do. That's how we learn, right? I mean, we we look at a number of things and then reassemble them.
Well, you guys, that's what we were able to pull together for you on
you
AI.
wanna-
Great questions.
You want to look at the video clip? I don't know if I can
Yeah,
do it.
show them the one thing you got. This is
The
pretty
one
cool.
thing. So there's been a couple of robotics. This is separate from AI but related. And Terry, you just went away. I don't know if you meant to or not, but
No, I'm right here. No,
you can keep your video up.
Okay.
And we can play with this if people want. I mean, we do some graphic creation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm not. But that's the extent of the things that I really know at this point. But yeah, so there was a couple of robotics conferences over the last week. And one of them is about Amazon, and Amazon's been on the forefront of using the tech, and they've got a little, they're testing out a brand new one from another company, which is a bipedal. What is it? A robot basically, which again uses parts of AI. We're still early days, but let's see if I can.
Let's see it.
Let's see if I can do this. I'm not guaranteeing I will, but I think I can. We at least see the video, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you'll hear it or not, but
We're heading the warehouse
can you
automation
hear it or not?
Yeah.
where bipedal robots are no longer the stuff of science fiction. Amazon's recent collaboration with Agility Robotics and their Digit robot is the talk of the tech town. Let's delve into what this means for the world's largest online retailer. The Digit robot by Agility Robotics isn't your average warehouse automaton. This humanoid bot stands out literally on 2 feet, unlike the traditional wheeled warehouse robots we're used to seeing. Digit walks. It has the ability to navigate not just smooth, flat surfaces, but also uneven terrains, stairs, and the tight nooks and crannies you might find in a bustling fulfillment center. Picture a humanoid with arms, designed to lift and carry parcels,
And we can
you've
stop
got
this any
Digit.
place,
But what's
but-
driving Amazon to integrate Digit into its expansive world
But
of
it's
warehouses?
pretty interesting
The
to
online
see-
retail giant has always been at the cutting edge of automation. However, as expansive and varied as Amazon's inventory is, there are always challenges. There are items placed at tricky spots, uneven pathways, and locations that even the best wheeled robot might struggle with. Enter Digit. With its bipedal capabilities, it can traverse these tricky areas, ensuring that even the hardest to reach product is never out of grasp. Amazon's announcement about testing Digit came as no surprise for those tracking the company's innovative trajectory. With an ever-growing demand to speed up delivery times, reduce human-related errors, and further optimize their supply chain, Amazon's move to test Digit is a calculated and
Do you
forward-thinking
want to
one.
stop
The
there,
Guardian's
maybe?
recent report highlights
Or
essential
let it,
points.
I can
One of the
continue to
biggest
let it go.
advantages
But
of the Digit
I
robot,
can also
beyond it,
stop it and
Or you can stop it. I think that gives everybody a
gives
good
an
look.
idea. I mean, the biggest point for me to this is this stuff is not science fiction. It is here, right? It's here now, and it's going to continue to evolve, and we can't put a stop to it because somebody's going to develop it. Somebody's going to develop somewhere in the world. We might as well. We have to continue.
So let's run Dennis for president.
Oh yeah, I could do that.
Can we run Dennis for president? We need either T-shirt or mugs.
its
Hold on one second.
compactness.
Let me stop
It doesn't
that.
take up as
The video started again, so let me just.
For a sign off, if we run Dennis Dresang for president 2024, we need some coffee cups or a T-shirt or a poster.
Yeah, I played with this a little bit. So I said, okay, so let's see. Rate some paraphernalia. God, I can't spell that.
No, anyway.
For Dennis Dresang, if I could type, it'd be dangerous. Running for president. Let's see what it does. Let's see.
Oh, it's giving you. I did. So you need an image then.
Yeah.
Did you say image? Merchandise.
Create
Merch,
merchant
merchandise. AN.
for Professor. We'll see what it does. And again, it gives you different answers.
Searching for
Oh.
Professor Dennis Dresang running for President Merchandise.
Merchandise. Merchandise. Well,
It's gonna not give me an answer today.
yesterday yesterday we got coffee cups for you.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
let's see.
Ah,
And you were several different colors.
No,
Yeah.
for Dennis Dresang, political scientist. See if I can get it to do that. Yeah, the slogan. Oh, I think I sent that to you, Dennis. The
right.
slogan
Yep.
came up with is slogans that came up for a yard sign was make America smart again.
Well, interesting. It's not doing it this time. It's not
No,
creating images.
No, it's not
at
doing
all.
images. I don't know why.
By golly.
Dolly may be off. I mean, Dolly now. Oh, nope. There it goes. There it
Oh,
goes.
wait.
It's generating it. So anyway, I would encourage people to check this out. It's worth. I'm using Microsoft Edge as the browser. I think you can also do it in Google Chrome now.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
we got
maybe.
some questions down there, I think. Let's see, where'd they go?
I think we got China or Russia is sort of interfering here.
It's possible. I mean, this stuff is still early days. So every day it creates something. It does something different.
So,
Yeah.
question on the stock market, Kurt. AI.
I mean, there are organizations that are using it to pour through all the data that currently exists, right, and see if they can find trends. So it is being used already. Is it going to outsmart humans? Well, no, I have no idea. But it's being used already.
Yeah,
it has been for a while,
and we do know that. And in terms of tech companies, they're spending big on it, so that, in a sense, affects the stock market. So,
yeah. So I
really
don't
big.
have an answer to that.
Yeah. Okay. AI can copy, but can it also be used to critique copying? Could AI mechanisms be used to compare similarities in song and lyric copyright trials?
That's already been done, where it's used, where you can take it and actually look for similar types of things that are on.
See if someone's stealing your songs. Yeah. Okay. Some people want to vote for you for Dennis. I would campaign for you.
Well, turnout is important.
The little on campus, Kurt, those little carts running around delivering food, is that AI?
I mean, they use AI because they recognize humans, they recognize curbs, they recognize obstacles.
Yeah.
That's an early version of it, right?
They're super cautious when you get there, and there'll be 4 of them at an intersection waiting to cross, and people are crossing against the light, and there's no cars coming, but they won't. They'll sit there. Typically, the military takes the lead in this sort of high tech. How does this tech get commercialized?
Great question. If somebody's got an answer to it, by all means.
Dennis, what do you think?
Whoa, this has been a really great session. It really has. covered a lot of territory, and I think one of the key points that you're making is that there's a lot of parallels to how humans think and how
Yes.
humans learn. And I think that's a very profound observation. And in a way, it seems to me that that provides a kind of message that says, what we've got to do is we've got to continue to think and critique and be smart about what we're seeing and what we're reading and ask for sources and it not just sort of sit back and let AI do everything, but continue to think and critique ourselves.
Well, interesting today, if you haven't seen the Times, I think it's in the Times, somebody looks at the ads from Google's phone, and saying the advertisement's all about, you don't like the guy in the back, you don't like the picnic table in your picture, circle it and it disappears. You don't like somebody wanted to show how high they were jumping, and so they altered it to show them that they jumped higher. The thing about, in a world where we are struggling to find truth and information, to have this celebrated in ads, to say, have whatever you want. You want it to look, you want to look prettier. You want to have jumped higher. You want that ball to go out of the baseball field. I can adjust my picture on my phone to make it do that. So now it's one thing that we can do all that, but another thing to promote that in this world where we already have trouble with truth. Just so you can just say, I want to get the guy who was behind me in the picture, putting horns on my head. I want to get that gone because I want this picture. Anyway, it's interesting to see to think about where this is all going in terms of what's real and what isn't. And are we pushing people, allowing them, encourage these expectations to show how much higher I really can jump than I jumped? I don't know.
Yeah.
It raises more I'm sure this raises more questions than it answers, but what I wanted folks to understand is this is an evolution, right? Not a revolution. It's been coming for a long time. That's really, quite frankly, unstoppable. So we need to put the effort behind it to adjust to it. Is it scary? Some, right? There's possibilities for abuse. There has been for all technologies. But
one thing
it's scary. It's scary when people, quite apart from AI, it's scary when people don't tell us the truth.
Yes.
It's scary when people, misrepresent. So you have to be active, not passive as a consumer.
One of the things that Kurt and I did in preparing for this, I wanted to see a guardrail. What does Bing or Copilot, will it stop? And so Kurt said, can you show me a picture of Trump riding a bicycle?
And it did create the image, but it put a block on the top of it and said, hey, we're not going to do this.
So there's certain words that at least in this application where there are guardrails. I don't know what it would have done for porn or name calling or other things. But we just tried Trump on a bicycle, and it triggered something to say, nope, we're just not going to go there with Trump.
And I tried that one because I've tried some that I thought were maybe a little more interesting, maybe a little more funny, but I thought, well, that one would be kind of funny. I'll try that. And I thought it would. I actually thought that was innocuous enough to for it to create, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun, you guys.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hopefully people got something out of it. I hope so. Nice to hear Todd and hear what his, what the state's looking at.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Well, see you next week.
Do you want to what we're doing next week or not?
Lisa Davidson from I hope she'll talk about the Silver Tsunami. It's about disabilities programs that help not just folk who are older folks, but others too. And it's a program and what's going on with it, how they interact, where their money comes from, and the kind of work they're doing. But particularly with attention to our Silver Tsunami.
Well, I'm hoping I'm just slightly behind you guys. I'm hoping by the time I get to the point to a point where I can't drive anymore, or that I'll have the self-driving cars will be a reality, and it
Yeah.
can take me where I want to go. I won't remember why I went there.
And I can be able to sell my one car garage because people won't need two cars. My one car garage will come back. Yay.
All right.
Or potentially no cargo.
Hey, Cindy's got her hand up. What's
I used to work for the DOT, and we were investigating the automated vehicles. And I went to a great symposium in Oregon, the state, on about automated vehicles. And the state of Oregon allows connected automated vehicles. Trucks can follow like right behind each other because they're communicating with each other. But the Oregon legislature came up with was creating rules for what lane they're allowed to be in, because they can't be in the far right lane because it was making it difficult for vehicles to come merge on and get off because the connected vehicles were so close together. So there's a lot of challenges, but one of the things that I really think is going to be a factor is the same reason we don't have a good train system in the US. And I think it's Americans and their vehicles, because what are you going to do with all those collector vehicles that don't have, automated intelligence to them? How do you let those be on the road with their errant human behavior and automated vehicles as well? I think that just like the cell phone industry, I think it'll do much better in other countries before it'll do well here.
Interesting. It's interesting. I mean, you're right. It's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
okay?
Happy Halloween.
All right, give away a lot of candy.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Okay.